We begin tonight with breaking news on Capitol Hill. It is countdown to shutdown. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Vargas. Senators now have about 5 hours to reach a funding deal. If they do not, the government will shut down at 1 minute past midnight for the first time since 2018. And at this point, that is looking very likely. At this moment, the Senate is wrapping up a vote on the Republican version of the spending bill. It's not expected to pass, despite support from a handful of Democrats, including Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman and Nevada Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. And just before we went to air, the Senate failed to pass the Democratic version of this funding bill. No other votes are expected tonight. So without a last-minute Hail Mary in these final moments now, as this Republican version is on the floor of the Senate, the government is going to shut its doors. If that happens, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that up to 750,000 federal workers could be furloughed at a cost of $400 million a day. But President Trump says he might just fire some of them instead.
The Democrats want to shut it down, so when you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and they're Democrats. They're going to be Democrats.
Aside from federal workers, all active duty military personnel and National Guard troops on deployment would also have to serve without pay until the shutdown ends. So will air traffic controllers and TSA screeners. The impact of all of this varies by agency and by how long the shutdown actually lasts. The last shutdown lasted 35 days, from December 2018 to January of 2019. It was during President Trump's first term. It was the longest in U.S. history. The Congressional Budget Office says even after all the furlough reimbursements, it still wound up costing the economy $3 billion. Air travel was also strained during that time after some TSA workers and air traffic controllers who were working without pay called in sick. Let's go right now to NewsNation's Joe Khalil, live for us on Capitol Hill. Joe, break it down. What's happening? Have they finished the vote on the Republican version of a spending bill?
Mr. Scott of South Carolina,
So not yet. We're just waiting for the final couple of votes. And as we watch the Senate floor, it is already obvious that this vote is going to fail. We knew that from the beginning of the day. As they continue to count here, I am looking at a tally that says 44 no votes, which already is more opposition than you would need to ultimately kill this bill. So it is not going to pass. Bottom line, we are headed for a shutdown, Elizabeth. And both sides, before they even came to the floor, and even in the last couple of days, have sort of been dug in and resigned to the fact that that is where we were. The discussion no longer is whether you can avoid a shutdown in these last couple of hours, a Hail Mary, miraculous type situation. It is now going to be what comes next. So which side wins the sort of public PR battle? Which side can convince the public they are right? And also how ultimately you get out of a shutdown. That is going to be the reality here in just a couple of hours. Democrats continue to say this, for them, is about health care, that people are going to lose their subsidies that help them pay for their health care premiums, that there are simply too many drastic cuts to Medicaid in President Trump's previous big, beautiful bill, and they don't want President Trump clawing back money that they've already appropriated and they've already passed. And without those three things, Democrats say they are going to continue to be no's on this government funding. That is exactly what happened today. On the Republican side, they are saying they simply want a clean CR, which means keep the government spending levels exactly where they are for the next couple of weeks and provide more time to negotiate a more long-term spending deal with Democrats. They also say adding $1 trillion in spending for the health care things Democrats want is simply not a viable option for them. Neither side has blinked. We have the vote now, and we are seeing that. Take a listen to some of what we've been hearing from both sides of the aisle today, just a couple of hours before they took this vote. What is the way out if we do wake up tomorrow in a shutdown?
for there to be real negotiations about how to fix the high increases in health insurance rates. I've talked to a dozen Republicans who are willing to work on reforming and extending the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Most folks don't know that right over the horizon in the next month, we're going to see big increases in health care costs. It's a consequence of decisions Republicans made months ago in their big, beautiful bill.
Well, right now, there's no negotiation. It's a shakedown. The Democrats have asked for $1 trillion of additional spending, and they want it all for just a 4-week opening of the government. That's absolutely ludicrous.
So, Elizabeth, it's unclear how long this lasts. The conversation very quickly is going to shift, if this is a prolonged shutdown, to the impacts to real people. We're talking about federal workers, potentially hundreds of thousands of them losing their jobs. Some may be furloughed. Some, as we've heard from the OMB director, the Office of Management and Budget, some may be fired permanently. And that could cause some real pain throughout the economy. We're also looking at federal programs. People rely on payments that, may be stalled, may be affected in some ways. So those conversations will continue to happen if this is a longer shutdown like we saw back in 2018. Right now, there is no clear strategy as to how to get out of where Congress is right now.
Yeah, fair to say, Joe, that folks in America might not be paying a lot of attention to this tonight or in the last few days, but they will increasingly so as each day passes with the government shut down. And Republicans control the White House and both chambers of commerce. In the Senate, however, Republicans need 60 votes. They don't have 60 Republican members. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the challenge for them. And so you're going to see that. They need at least 7 Democrats, assuming that all Republicans stay on the same page. Senator Rand Paul, Republican, often votes against his own side. So you may need 7 or 8 Democrats to sort of change their mind on this issue. And at least for tonight, we're not going to have that. And I'll just say, you're going to continue to hear both sides try to push their arguments onto the public. Both sides already introducing different polling, showing that the public is going to support their view. And again, it's a battle of the polls. We're going to continue to see that. That may sound very much like a Beltway Washington thing. But if there are overwhelming poll numbers that blame one side or the other, the thought might be that could be pressure on that side to sort of come to the table. So it may actually have some real world impacts there.
Somebody will blink at that point. All right, Joe Khalil on Capitol Hill, thanks so much. Let's get reaction now from our political panel. Nick Mulvaney is President Trump's former chief of staff and a NewsNation political contributor. Kurt Bardella is a Democratic strategist and a NewsNation contributor. Great to have both of you here. Okay, Mick, you were part of the first government shutdown. Trump said late this afternoon, quote, "When you shut down the government, you have to do layoffs. We will be laying off a lot of people." This comes after the OMB warned federal agencies to prepare for mass firings if a shutdown happens.
That's right. This is what's so amazing to me as a Republican. I know my Democrat friends, including Kurt, complain about Donald Trump's supposed expansion of executive authority, how he takes too much power away from the legislature. I have news for everybody. I ran the last government shutdown in 2018, 2019. The executive branch authority goes up dramatically during a shutdown. Ordinarily, it's very difficult to fire a federal worker if you're the President of the United States. It gets a lot easier during a shutdown. The executive authority increases when there's a lapse in appropriations, which is technically what a shutdown is called. So all those Democrats out there who have said, oh, I think Trump has too much authority, are getting ready tonight to give him and his team even more.
Yeah, and as Trump has been saying, it's irreversible. He can fire these folks, and that's it. Kurt, this fight is over health care. Democrats want to extend the Biden program that lowered health insurance for 20 million Americans who are getting insured through the Affordable Care Act. And they also want to undo some of the cuts to Medicaid that were part of Trump's big, beautiful bill. Only 2% of voters rank health care as their top concern. Why are Democrats risking everything over this?
Because they're stupid and incapable of messaging in a politically savvy way that connects with the American people. We heard it from one of the clips that we played in Jill Kay's package. They were talking about, well, there could be a healthcare crisis around the corner. In other words, it actually hasn't happened yet. You're trying to convince the American people that you're trying to solve a problem that has not yet materialized. The political will not exist to do that. The American people are not going to just go, oh, well, you're shutting down the government because of this problem fictitiously that may be out there one day that hasn't actually hit my bottom line yet, they're not going to care, Elizabeth. The American people are not going to listen to that message. And so Democrats, once again, are actually playing right into Donald Trump and the Republican Party's hands by fighting for something that, one, they're not going to get, two, they're going to end up capitulating and looking weak yet again, and three, the American people will not be with them because it isn't a problem right now.
Republicans have been trying to say that Democrats are trying to get health care, free health care for illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are barred by law from getting federally funded health care. They're ineligible for Medicaid and Medicare. Schumer and Jeffries are saying that Republicans are lying about this claim. That didn't stop President Trump from posting this AI video last night. Watch.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters.
All right. That's an AI video. It's completely fake. It had the speaker, the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, in a sombrero and mustache. Mick, first of all, let's let Hakeem Jeffries respond to that video quickly.
And Mr. President, the next time you have something to say about me, don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face. Say it to my face.
All right, Mick, the president posted that fake AI video like about a couple of hours after Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer were in the Oval Office. Why is President Trump posting fake AI videos?
Oh, if you haven't figured out how much Donald Trump enjoys trolling the left, then you just haven't been paying attention. He's doing this to get the exact same response that he's got. The Democrats play right into his hands. Will people call it immature? Yes. Will people call it sort of a schoolyard type of debate back and forth between Jeffries and Trump? Yes. But the point of the matter is we've just played it, and we didn't talk for that 3 or 4 minutes about the issues, which I think Trump was okay with. Look, this is what I think is going to happen, Elizabeth, is that typically in these shutdowns, it's whichever side, not Republican or Democrat, but whichever side is asking for something extra that loses. It's the side that says, look, can't we just punt? Can't we just keep the government open? Can't we do what's called a clean continuing resolution with nothing added, no bells and whistles? That's the team that wins. That's the team that doesn't give up. The team that asks for extra stuff, like we did in 2019. We asked for extra border security. We didn't get that. We ended up giving up under those circumstances. And I think the Democrats give up here. But again, this is a distraction that I think the Trump team welcomes.
Kurt, 10 seconds.
Democrats, they're Lucy, Charlie Brown football. They keep swinging at it, missing, falling on their face, and looking dumb.
Okay, that was good. And more importantly, under 10 seconds. Nick Mulvaney, Kurt Bardella, thank you both so much. Really appreciate it. So while congressional leaders are preparing for a shutdown, the country's military leaders are being told to prepare for a slim down. And I'm not talking budget cuts. We're talking about literal weight loss. That was one of the headlines coming out of a rare gathering of 800 of the top military leaders and officials at Quantico in Virginia today. The top brass got an earful not only from Secretary Pete Hegseth, but from the president himself. The message to them was clear. The Department of Defense is now the Department of War, and the focus is on building what the administration calls a warrior ethos.
We're bringing back a focus on fitness, ability, character, and strength. And that's because the purposes of American military is not to protect anyone's feelings. It's to protect our republic.
And with that comes 10 Department of War directives that each commander just received in their inbox. The focus is on fielding a lethal fighting force, ready for combat at a moment's notice. And as the president mentioned, there's a new emphasis on physical fitness, not just of the troops, but of the generals.
It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look.
Every service member now needs to take a physical fitness test twice a year, and they'll have to meet a weight requirement as well. That includes all those generals and admirals in attendance. Female troops will have to meet the same standards as their male counterparts, or they're out.
If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. This is combat. This is life or death.
These new directives go well beyond actual fighting. Hegseth made it clear that this was about enacting a broader cultural change.
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that.
The president also made a pretty obscure reference to the ultimate weapon in the Department of War's arsenal, the nuclear bomb.
I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. You can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else.
Joining me now is one of the fiercest people we know, General Richard Newton. He's NewsNation's senior national security contributor. General, what did you make of these speeches by Secretary Hegseth and the president to the country's top generals and admirals this morning?
Well, good evening, Elizabeth. I'd be thinking what your dad, as I recall, is a retired Army colonel. My dad's retired Air Force. They both served in generations when they were really on the cusp of combat and served in combat, I'm sure. It was sweeping, unprecedented. First and foremost, I believe that this idea of trying to return to a warrior ethos, he looked out in this, that audience. I'm talking about Secretary Hegseth. That's probably the most combat-tested leadership team of the United States military that we've probably seen in a long time. They came from the generation of 9/11 and have served.
Right.
So very, again, I thought it was unprecedented and lacking, I think, in terms of really what I wanted to hear about was the changing landscape and the geopolitical and the national security environment and so forth, and what we're going to do about it.
Right. We spent, taxpayers spent millions and millions of dollars flying all these generals and admirals from all over the world to Quantico this morning. Did they have to fly all that way to hear a lecture on being fit and losing weight and cancel culture when it comes to, diversity initiatives, DEI, that sort of thing?
I think it's okay for the secretary. He's been in office for about 8 months to kind of, again, unprecedented was his prerogative to meet with his generals and so forth. But in terms of, I think, a waste of opportunity and time, I would have, regardless of the travel expenses and so forth, I think I would have focused, as I mentioned, less on warrior ethos, about readiness. Secondly, about really a unifying message about what we need to be doing now and moving forward. Third, about the changing landscape, the national security environment. I would want to hear, let's bring out what the new national defense strategy is going to be and how we're going to be operationally impacted by that and how we're moving forward. That's what I wanted to hear, and that's what we need to hear.
Pete Hegseth announced that he's returning the military to the highest, this is the words he used, the highest male standards. He went on to say, if that means no women qualify, so be it. It felt to some like he wants to return the military to an all-male combat force. Is that what you heard as well?
Hard to hear. We have 2.1 million men and women in uniform, all volunteers, men and women serving their country. By the way, all will run to the sound of guns. If you look at what happened a couple years ago at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan, our women killed in defending our freedoms and elsewhere. I would like to turn to higher military standards, not necessarily associated with male or female. Let's maintain those standards. Let's get back to, meritocracy, as we've been known for years in the United States military. And again, we recruit and we retain the best and brightest this nation has to offer. No term male or female. But we have to really rely on those Americans who want to serve their country and fight for our nation's freedom. It doesn't matter if they're male or female. I just want to fight and win our nation's wars. I want to defend our freedoms, and I want to make the American people to be proud of our military.
Well, and as you said, in that audience there, some of the most battle-hardened, battle-tested military leaders our country has had fortunate to be leading us now. Richard Newton, General Richard Newton, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Good evening, Elizabeth.
Coming up for us, we are going to hear in just a moment from an angry and grieving father who blasted soft on crime policies that allowed a career criminal to remain on the streets and murder his daughter. What that father wants done now to solve the problems and why he is speaking out.
You pissed off the wrong daddy.
Bill O'Reilly on Cuomo.
So I'm going to save you from yourself once again.
America's favorite sparring duo with TV's liveliest, most honest debate. Tomorrow at 8, 7 Central, only on NewsNation.
It's on fire.
This week's House Subcommittee hearing on crime in Charlotte, North Carolina may have been spurred by the brutal murder of Irina Zarutska on a light rail system, but there are many other victims who were also murdered by career criminals. Many of their families are now fighting for justice and reminding the public that these crimes aren't just tragic anecdotes, they're part of the bigger problem. Take the case of Logan Federico, a 22-year-old who grew up outside Charlotte. She had recently decided she wanted to be a teacher. She loved Taylor Swift. Well, Logan was visiting friends in Columbia, South Carolina, when she was shot to death by a man named Alexander Dickey during a home invasion in May. Her father, Steve, slammed the justice system for failing his daughter during extremely emotional testimony yesterday.
Think about your child coming home from a night out with their friends, laying down, going to sleep, feeling somebody come in the room and wake them, and drag her out of bed, naked, forced on her knees, with her hands over her head, begging for her life, begging for her hero, her father, me, that couldn't be there. She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. Bang! Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devontae Dickey, who was arrested 39 goddamn times, 25 felonies, was on the street. How about that? How good are we doing for our family? How good are you doing for your kids?
Steve Federico says Alexander Dickey should have been in prison for more than 140 years, according to sentencing guidelines, but instead only spent 600 days behind bars. Irina's alleged killer also had a violent history, violent felony convictions, long mental health challenges. He was also out on the street and was able to kill. According to the Bureau of Justice statistics, 66% of released state prisoners were rearrested within 3 years. 82% were arrested at least once in 10 years. So how do we solve this problem and how do we save lives? Logan's dad, Steve Federico, joins us now. Steve, I'll be honest, I watched your testimony yesterday and said, we have to get this man on the show. It was so powerful. It was deeply moving. Why was it so important for you to speak up?
I have a dead daughter that was 1,000% preventable. And I have to help prevent it from happening to somebody else. I have to. It's something that is so easy to prevent. It's not rocket science. You keep criminals locked up. You arrest them. You put them in prison. That's where they belong. That's where they're supposed to be rehabilitated. That's what prisons are for, rehabilitation. And if they can't be rehabilitated, they stay in prison. The problem is, if you don't put them in prison, you don't know if prison actually works.
Your daughter was killed by a man who had a record a mile long, a man who should have been in prison but wasn't because of a clerical error. What happened?
Well, let's be clear. Yes, the clerical error definitely had something to do with it. But Alexander Dickey had plenty of crimes after that to be in prison. Okay. What you have to do is your homework. When you're a prosecutor, a judge, a solicitor, anyone that comes across somebody, they should be sharing information. They should know that person's personal history resume of crimes. The problem is they didn't do the work. They didn't know. They keep saying, well, we didn't know he had these crimes. It took an investigative reporter 10 minutes to find a 40-page rap sheet. 10 minutes, Elizabeth. That's all it took.
And is it just judges who are, I mean, releasing him early? Was he not sentenced to enough time? I mean, how does a person like Alexander Dickey, why is he back out on the streets? And by the way, it's not just him. I mean, there are many criminals. The vast majority of crimes in this country are committed by repeat offenders.
Right.
Why? I mean, was it a combination of all those things, of judges going easy, of prosecutors going light, of deals being cut? What happened?
You just hit the trifecta. I mean, it's all of it. It's all of the above. I mean, it's soft on crime policies. First of all, my daughter is proof that those policies do not work and cannot work. Okay. And yes, most crimes are by reoffenders, for sure. But if you look at the big picture, how many people like Alexander Dickey are out there? Can you imagine? It is scary. It's absolutely scary that this happens everywhere, not just to Logan Federico. I just got off the phone with the mother of the intern from Washington. Okay. You know, I've gotten many phone calls from other parents of murder victims. There's going to be a movement by parents of murder children. I'm telling you right now, we are going to band together and we're going to do something.
You described in your testimony a horrific scene of your daughter on her knees, pleading for mercy, asking for her dad. How did you learn about those details?
From a report that we submitted to the U.S. Attorney, South Carolina District, Brian Sterling, was a report. It was in the report. Kind of found it out right before the meeting. So, yeah.
This was somebody, a witness, or was it the killer himself who revealed this to authorities? Forensics. You've suffered the unimaginable. Steve, you'll never recover from this.
I'm not the only one. There isn't a parent alive that would recover from this. But there is a way for me to heal a little bit, and that's doing what I'm doing. I mean, this is what Logan would want me to do. Logan was a fighter. She fought for the underdog. And right now, the innocent people, the innocent children out there are the underdogs, and I need to fight for them.
Tell me about Logan.
She was awesome. She was a free spirit. She loved to see her friends all the time. She worked hard. Like I said, she fought for the underdog. She wanted people to be included. You know, the kids sometimes that were in school that weren't popular, she would pull them into a group to make them feel wanted. She just was a bright light. She was the type of person that our country, our world needs. You know, she was going to be an educator. She was going to make a difference in kids' lives.
Steve Federico, I am so sorry for your loss. Your daughter was clearly a beautiful person inside and out. And I can understand why you as her dad are fighting so hard in her memory to make sure there isn't another dad walking your path right now. So thank you for that work.
No, thank you. I appreciate the time you let me get Logan's story out there. I really do.
You bet, Steve. Anytime you want to come back on, you just holler. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Coming up for us, we have a very, very unusual story out of the state of Iowa. A school superintendent in charge of all the schools, 30,000 kids, was just arrested by ICE. Was he in this country illegally, and is that only the tip of the iceberg? We're going to go there live next. Just what is going on with the Des Moines public school system? For starters, the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division is looking into alleged race-based discrimination in hiring for Des Moines public schools, which it says violates federal law. But really, that news is just the cherry on top. The district of 30,000 students is already swept up in uncertainty surrounding its now former school superintendent. Ian Roberts stepped down earlier today after he was arrested by ICE on Friday. Roberts is a native of Guyana and a former Olympic athlete who has served Des Moines Public Schools since 2023. A noon deadline came and went for Roberts to confirm his citizenship to the school board. The story is fast becoming a legal nightmare for Roberts and a PR nightmare for the people who hired him. NewsNation's investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has been digging into Roberts' record and found that some things are not adding up.
Right? Hi. How are you? It's unusual for ICE agents to arrest Midwestern school superintendents, and it's even more unusual for those superintendents to be found in possession of a loaded handgun, a fixed-blade hunting knife, and thousands of dollars in cash. But the case of Ian Roberts is anything but usual.
It's complex, it's difficult, and there are a lot of what I would call a myriad of issues that are involved.
When the news broke that ICE arrested Roberts initially, Des Moines School Board Chair Jackie Norris called for radical empathy.
Are you still calling for radical empathy, and is the board taking any responsibility for his hiring?
There was nothing in the information that was given to us to allude to any question about his citizenship.
One question raises another, and straight answers are in short supply. Where was Roberts born? When a reporter asked him last year, he dodged the question.
Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Sure. Yeah, so both parents are from Guyana, South America. So I spent most of my formative years between Guyana and Brooklyn, New York.
ICE says he entered the U.S. on a student visa in 1999 and received a removal order in May 2024. Athletic competition records cite his birth date as December 18, 1973. But court records and his 2017 marriage certificate list December 18, 1970 as his birth date. His voter registration in Maryland says 1970. Roberts' academic record even more confusing. His LinkedIn, an impressive number of schools. A bachelor from Coppin State University, master's degree, St. John's, Morgan State University. For years, he went by doctor. St. John's confirmed he got a master's but not a doctorate degree. His official bio says he completed programs at Morgan State. But Morgan State tells us no, quote, Ian Roberts did not receive any degree or certificate from Morgan State University. Roberts left his last position at Mill Creek High Township in Pennsylvania for the job here. In a note, Mill Creek Township says he passed all clearances, including an FBI background check. But in 2020, at the time of his hiring in Mill Creek, the school board there raised questions about his background, according to minutes of their board meetings we obtained. Dr. Roberts lacked the educational certificate from his educational facilities that he obtained his doctorate.
You referred to him as Dr. Roberts. Can you tell us which institution he received his doctorate from?
Yes, it was, I know it, the international school, Trident International, right?
Trident International University, an online university. As many in the community rally around his case in solidarity, some parents with kids in the district have had enough.
Even if you take, was he here legally or not, when he was stopped and then he took off and he fled and then they found a loaded gun, a fixed blade knife, and $3,000 in cash in his car, that enough is, I'm done.
That mom, Jen Cronin, says instead of radical empathy from the school board, she wants to see radical transparency and accountability. Ian Roberts, his attorney, says he's working to have his deportation order stayed and wants to reopen his immigration case. Elizabeth?
Is he still there, Rich? Where is he tonight?
It's unclear. We believe he is in a jail here in Des Moines, but even his attorney alluded to the fact that it's possible he is not.
Okay, and super quick, we mentioned he was an Olympic athlete. Which country did he compete for?
Guyana, South American country of Guyana.
All right, so that would seem to clear up at least when he wouldn't answer where he was born. This is the strangest story, Rich. Keep on it and let us know what you find out. Thanks so much. All right, coming up for us, an interstellar object is hurtling through our solar system, and guess what? It's way bigger than everybody previously thought, and it's getting closer to Earth. Well, one astrophysicist says it could be using alien technology to conduct reconnaissance on planet Earth. What makes him think that? Next. The mystery surrounding a rare interstellar object heading toward planet Earth is growing tonight, as is its estimated size. These images from the International Gemini Observatory in Chile show the object known as the 3-Eye Atlas. Scientists say new data reveals it actually weighs more than 33 billion tons and spans more than 3 miles wide. It is much bigger than they previously thought. It's so big, its size would equal 569 Great Walls of China layered on top of each other, or 5.5 billion elephants piled high. And what's more, this object is getting closer to Earth. It's not going to hit us, but in just a matter of days, the object is expected to pass the closest to the sun that it ever will get, traveling between the orbits of Earth and Mars. Scientists say it's just the third such interstellar visitor ever detected. But this one is so huge it now dwarfs its predecessors, measuring 3 to 5 times bigger. That is my next guest wondering whether it could be some kind of alien object sent from another solar system, not just some rare sort of natural space object. And he wonders also if it could be on a mission to conduct reconnaissance on us, for purposes either benign or malevolent. It's not the first time astrophysicist Avi Loeb has suggested the object has alien origins. He came on this show to say so a while back, even saying the object could be on a mission to release, quote, mini probes that could invade Earth. And Avi Loeb joins us now. He's the head of the Galileo Project, director of Harvard University's Institute for Theory and Computation, also the best-selling author of the book Extraterrestrial. Okay, why are we just now figuring out this thing is as big as it is? Why were we wrong in the estimates of its size?
Thanks for having me. Well, we know that the object is losing mass because we see a cloud of gas around it that is a result of its warming up as it gets close to the sun, but it doesn't change its path. There is no push that is visible on the trajectory of the object, and that means that it's very massive, at least 1,000 times more massive than the previous one, which was a comet, Borisov, discovered in 2019. Not only that it's so massive, much more than the previous one, but there is also not enough rocky material in interstellar space to deliver such a giant rock into the inner solar system over the past decade.
Well, explain that, Avi. So what do you mean there's not enough rock? What do you mean? Does this mean this is even further reason for you to think this isn't a natural object?
Well, yes, because there is limited reservoir of rocky material per unit volume in interstellar space. And even if you package all of it in objects of this size or bigger, then there is just not enough number of objects to deliver them at random once per decade to the inner solar system. So that's another issue. And the trajectory of this object is aligned with the planets around the sun, the plane of the planets. And on the one hand, that's extremely rare, 1 in 500 chance. But on the other hand, it offers us an opportunity to observe it. And indeed, by the end of this week, it will come within 29 million kilometers from Mars. And there are several orbiters there that were deposited there by NASA, by the European Space Agency, by the Chinese Space Agency. And we will get much more information about it. In particular, we can get an image with a 30-kilometer pixel size. So we can then look at the brightest pixel and infer how big is the object.
So if you think the chances are getting slimmer and slimmer that it's a man-made object, meteor, what is it?
Well, there are some other anomalies. You know, during July and August, there was some glow in front of the object towards the sun, 10 times longer than it is wide. We don't see that often in comets. Usually the glow is behind, trailing the object away from the sun.
What does that tell you then?
Well, we don't know. You see, that is work in progress, and we just need more data. My point is simple. You know, any intelligence agency knows that they need to make a contingency plan for black swan events that are rare, unlikely, but could make a huge difference. We should do the same for interstellar objects. Just be aware of the possibility that it could represent alien tech.
Okay, anytime I hear black swan event and alien tech and interstellar objects, you're giving me, it's nightmare fuel. Avi Loeb, I'm sure we'll have you back. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up, just moments ago, the White House gave the order to the executive branches to begin shutting down. What happens now? We're taking a look next. All right, Chris Cuomo is off. Jesse Weber is sitting in. We're about 4 hours, right? Yeah, 4 hours from the shutdown. 4 hours and a little bit of change. The order just went out from the Office of Management and Budget to executive agencies. Begin shutting down. So it begins.
See, here's the question. We're going to be interviewing two congressmen on both sides of the aisle, Ami Bera, we're going to be interviewing Mark Harris. The question I have for both of them, is it worth it? Is it worth it for Republicans when you're talking about, you know, mass firings? When you're talking about, by the way, pro-military, there are going to be 1.3 million active duty members who are not going to get paid. For Democrats, is it worth it?
And
when
military,
you're talking,
I speak as an Army brat. You live very close to the line. You don't, They don't make a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money.
They're struggling as is. So I don't know if we're going to see consensus. I think we're looking at a shutdown, but we'll see.
Well, I think we're going to see a shutdown at least. And they've scheduled another vote for tomorrow, so maybe it'll only last, you know, who knows, 18 hours. We shall see.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.